Hey guys, my name is Jason. This is Old Car Guy. We're getting back to work on Dale Jr., my 1990 Chevy Suburban, so stay tuned. So I know a lot of you guys are hoping that this may be the LS swap series starting, but it is not. Today, we're actually going to start on some of the body work that needs to be done on Dale Jr. And it is the new year. It's January. It's time to get to work on this thing. We want to get it ready for spring. We got to start with this because we're still waiting for a few pieces to come in for the LS swap. That will be happening at a later time. But nevertheless, let's go over this truck and show you some of the areas that we're going to be repairing today. So for those of you who don't know where this truck came from, I'm going to leave a link up here as well as in the description box down below. This truck came from Kansas, specifically in the area of Wichita. So Kansas generally has some pretty dry climates, which is why this 35-year-old Suburban has survived in as great shape as it's in. Anybody who knows anything about square bodies knows that the bottom of the fenders down here, all the rocker panels, the leading edge of the rear fender, and in some cases back behind the fender are common areas on the body for these things to go bad. On Dale Jr. it is no exception. The passenger side rocker panel has a hole in it. We're going to cut into that to see how far we got to go. But the bottom part of the front fender is okay. The passenger rear rocker panel and leading edge of the wheel well is not too bad. We do have a slight little bit of blistering here. We might be able to clean that up and use some rust encapsulator on that, but we'll know once we get in there and start grinding. The passenger rear fender, again, no exception. You can see where I've actually poked that. It's pretty bad. I don't know how far up we're going to go, but the patch panels, I do believe, come above this trim, but we're going to try and keep the repair behind the trim so that we don't have to touch the paint on that color there. So we're going to be removing the trim as well as this rub strip to get in here and just see how far we're going to have to go. On the driver's side, well, yeah, it's got rust too, but it's also gotten some damage. Somebody must have backed over something at some point in time and banged up this corner. One of the things I'm having a hard time finding is this wheel well trim. It's damaged down here. I don't think I'm going to be able to straighten it out very good. But most of the trim that you find online is this style trim like you see on Dale the truck. With the groove, most of them have the black. Because this is a 77, it's got the ochre color down through the center. Leading edge of the rear fender here is gone as well, so we'll have to be getting into that. A little bit of rust right here on the rocker panel, but I think the rocker panels on this side are good, and the front fender has stayed good as well. And one of the big jobs that we've got to replace is this sill panel, because the hinge for the tailgate is not connected to anything. It's rotted off. The rest of it's in decent shape, but it's bolted in here. I think there's probably some pinch welds along the seam here, but as you can see, the rust is here, but it's also in this area as well where that hinge mounts up. But this tailgate being rusty down here and loose is a significant source of rattles on this thing, so I believe. So here's that hinge just kind of flopping around, and there's what's left of that cross member. So we're going to have to get this up on the hoist to figure that out. We're going to have to fill a hole over here on this inner fender panel, and we will do all of that when we replace this panel. These two rear sections on the left and right side, as well as that piece on the back underneath the tailgate that holds the hinge, that whole rear section is going to be done in one go because I'd like to do it standing up. We'll get it over to my shop where I've got a lift, and it will be a heck of a lot easier doing that repair standing up, and maybe an extra hand or two trying to get that thing spread apart. In the meantime, let's take a look at all the parts that we're going to use to do the repairs, because it comes from a very special sponsor of today's video. So with the help of our friends over at Auto Metal Direct, we were able to secure all the patch panels we're going to need to fix up Dale Jr. We've got the two rear fender sections as well as the tailgate piece that actually the whole tailgate bolts to. And there's where the tailgate bolts in. We've got our left rear fender patch. We've got one solid rocker panel that we're only going to use a section out for the passenger side. We've got a whole rocker panel for the driver's side if we need it, or for any other patches, because they're all the same. And we've got a couple of inner pieces here as well. So whether you're doing small little patch work like I'm doing here on Dale Jr., or you're doing full-scale restoration, AMD has got you covered. But they are more than just metal. They are your source for trim, weather stripping, switches, knobs, emblems, everything that you can think of, and things you may not have even known existed for your classic truck. Now, they don't just deal in square bodies, they do C10s, square bodies, up into OBS, they're into dent side Fords, Mopar cars, Ford cars. Head on over and check them out. Link in the description box down below. If I'm able to offer you any discounts, all of that will be linked in the description as well. I'm so thankful for Auto Metal Direct to be jumping on board with this project. And if you don't know by now, they are also the title sponsor of the Get Out and Drive podcast, which is now fueled by Auto Metal Direct. Make sure you head on over to where you listen to your favorite podcast and check out the Get Out and Drive podcast, where I am a co-host with my friend John, Custom Car Nerd Meyer. Now, let's get to cutting some metal off this Suburban. So far, nothing is going to plan. I wanted to use the cribbing underneath the rear tires, but my cribbing is about half an inch too tall, and my jack won't jack it up, but half an inch too short. So I could have pulled the jack out and put a block of wood under it to get the height that I wanted to, but that's a lot of pumping. That's exhausting. And up here, I couldn't get the jack under the front because of this air dam. So there's a bunch of half-inch bolts that hold that air dam off. We're going to take that out, and then we can take our jack from the front, jack up on the cross member, and either get our cribbing to go underneath the wheels, or we'll just use more jack stands. Anyways, here we go. This is bullshit. Okay, as you saw, we got the air dam off so that we can get the jack in under there. Fought a little bit with the sway bar because it's too low as well. Anyways, it's up. It's on jack stands, and I think we're ready to work. All right, so now that we got this thing up in the air, of course, we can see the leaking coming out of that 700R4. But that's not what we're here for today. We're going to be trying to cut out this rusty spot here. And because we're going to be cutting and grinding, I took a piece of cardboard and stuffed it in the door. Hopefully that'll mitigate keeping away some of those sparks. And I'm also going to take off this bottom carpet piece here. It's just held in with a bunch of Phillips head screws. So we get that out of the way so that we don't burn or singe that with sparks. That way we don't burn this thing down before we have a chance to really enjoy it. If you guys haven't yet, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to Olde Carr Guy, because subscriptions tell me that you're liking the content that I'm providing, in hopes that YouTube will push this stuff out for more people to see. So I think what I want to do first is, because this is spot welded along the rocker bottom here, is I'm going to cut a line right across here, and then we'll come up and around it somehow, like this, and maybe across that seam. And all we're trying to do is take a look inside to see how far the rust has gone. If we have to come way back here, we will, because we've got the whole rocker panel if needed. But I don't want to do the whole thing if I don't have to. So if we come back to here and we have to cut up into here a little bit, then that's going to be a lot easier to patch in than stripping down the whole side and the interior of the truck and drilling out all these spot welds, because that's a big job. I hate doing that. But I do have a trick that I'll show you. So let's get this cut out, see how far we have to go, and what we're going to have to do to make this repair. And guys, don't forget your eye protection. If you're like me and you wear glasses and you find it hard to find the proper safety glasses to go over your regular glasses, I'll leave a link down in the description box down below. So based on the inside of that rocker panel, that tells me the rust is going further than we think it is, even though it seems solid down here. I think we'll be able to salvage cutting that right along that seam the whole way down. But we've got to get this cleaned out and get this top layer undone, because I can see clean metal on the flat. So let's get that cut out and get all the rust cleaned out of this rocker panel. And by the way, this little Milwaukee is great for small things. A little too small of a job for doing what we're doing here, but we're going to try and make it work. So looking up inside that rocker panel, it's quite rusty. And this one only goes back a few more inches. But this is part of the inner rocker structure. There's a seam right there. I think if we clean this out and we get some rust encapsulator, spray it down in there, that should stop the rust. And then that way, when we go to patch in our panel, we only have to patch in this small little piece rather than doing the full panel, which goes up into the door jamb here quite a ways on both sides. So I'm going to get the vacuum out. We'll get the air, we'll clean all this out, get our rust encapsulator, spray it in there, and get ready to patch in our new panel. Okay, I don't know where I left off recording, but I think what I want to do is I've got the piece all cut out, kind of cut to fit, and I've marked on the original rocker panel this size. So it's kind of going to overlap it a bit. And by putting this on here, the plan that's in my head is to tack the patch to the original rocker panel. Here, here, and then down here and down there. That way, when I take the grinder and I cut across this straight line that I've drawn, it's going to cut through the patch as well as the original rocker. And then I'll do the same thing just on the inside edge here, all the way down straight. And it cuts out both the patch and the inner rocker so that what's left over is a hole in the original rocker, the same size as the material that's left over on the patch. Like I said, I mean, that's the plan. So I think that's the way I want to do it. It might not be the right way, and I'm sure you guys are going to be hollering at me in the comments. But if you've got a better way, this is just going to be the first one that I'm doing here on this vehicle. And if there's a better way, leave it down in the comment section down below how you do it. And maybe I will learn when I go to do the other patches on this vehicle. I'm probably not going to cover them all in this video, but the whole idea is to show you that I'm working on Dale Jr., trying to get started on this thing in hopes to have it ready for spring. But B, so that I can get practiced up with my welding, because as you know, I'm not much of a welder. So we've got a couple of brand new flap discs. We're going to turn bad welding into good grinding, get this thing all laid out flat. So in the meantime, I'm going to putter away at this, and hopefully you guys stick around to the end to see what it looks like. Oh, well, that didn't work. Why? Because my weld's broke. Oopsie. All right, so I think we've got that pretty much cut so that when we take this off, and we'll grind off the welds where we had that welded in place, that because I cut it with it overlapping, all the cuts should be the same so that this new piece basically fits right in there, which it do. So we'll get this ground off and start tacking this into place. All right, so we've got that all cut. I just grabbed a magnet to hold it in place, and it seems to be fitting everywhere really, really well, except for down here. And the only reason is because I think that the actual clamshell part of it is kind of squeezed together. So we're going to pry it open so that it lines up with that seam across the bottom. But as far as up top goes, like, we're right there, and it's flush the whole way across. It's flush right, well, it can come out a little bit, but we can fix that when we're tacking it in. And, you know, a little skim of body fill to cover up those seams. And I mean, it'll look just as good as it did rolling out of the factory. And we know these things didn't have great gaps and seams from the factory anyway. You're not going to see this when the door's closed pretty much anyway. So that's the only reason why I'm taking this on myself is A, practice, B, no one's going to see it really. And 4 is we're just trying to not make this a show truck, but we're trying to make it something that, you know, we can drive and people aren't going to be going, oh, that's got rust or work's been done there. So everything I drive, everything I own is 20 footers, 30 footers. Get too close, you're going to see some of the stuff that I've done to it, and it's not going to be perfect. Dale the truck, I did all the welding on that myself, and it came out really, really good. And I actually quite surprised myself learning how to do that. So I'm not too scared about this one here. I'm at the point now where I can actually start probably tacking this in. But before we do that, we've got to address this surface rust. So we're going to spray that down with a rust encapsulator. We're going to get all the way up in there, all the way back in there, and then of course down in the seam. We'll have to wait for that to dry, which will probably be sometime tomorrow. So let's get that sprayed, and we'll come back tomorrow and tack this in. Okay, so we've got that all sprayed down with the rust encapsulator. And I've showed this stuff to you guys before. We use a product called Rust Off by Dominion Sure Seal. We get it at our local Napa store. And if you can find something online, that code, 10043, I encourage you to use this. But there's other brands out there that use a similar type of rust converter, like Eastwood has something as well. You spray it on, you let it dry, and it basically neutralizes the existing rust that's there and prolongs it for a very long time. In a conversation with John, my co-host for the Get Out and Drive podcast, I asked him, I said, what do you think about these rust converter products? And you know, he thought that anything by Eastwood was good, and that, you know, it's not a sure thing that's going to stop rust forever. And my thoughts were on it that this truck lasted 35 years and this is all the rust that it has. If it lasts another 35 years, it'll outlive me likely. I won't have to worry about it the second time around. Anyways, got that spray. We got to let that dry probably overnight, and we'll come back tomorrow. We'll get this piece tacked in and just spray some primer over that bare metal just so that it doesn't flash, rust, or like that until we're ready to do some body work to it. And then we can start tackling all the bigger projects around the truck. All right, it's the next day and we've got the hole in our rocker panel ready to receive the new piece of metal. It's all been sprayed down with the rust encapsulator, or whatever you want to call it. Let's take a look. So there's what it looks like now. All that rust has changed color all into here, and it's ready to be welded. So what we've got to do is make sure that our surface is ready as well, but we've got a little bit more prepping to do on this patch panel to make sure that it fits in there nice and flush and that when we weld it, we're going to have very little body work to do. As it sits right now, this side sticks out a little bit past the body, so we're going to have to trim in here a little bit to make sure that that whole thing sits in there nice and flush. So like I said, just a little bit more trimming to do, and this side actually, once it's on there, actually looks pretty good. So let's get the trimming and see if we can't make sure this fits perfectly before we go tacking it into place. Okay, we get her tacked in there, and I think it's pretty much in the spot we need it. Yeah, that should do. So we'll get this thing tacked in.
We should glitter my front grill. Yeah.
You what?
We should glitter the front grill of my car.
No, we're not glittering your car.
Why not?
Because I drive that car. I'm not driving a glittered car. No. The joys of working in the garage with your spouse. Okay, so we've got this welded up and grinded down, and this was the easy part, getting this welded up because you're working kind of overhead. Down here, well, it's a little bit of a different story. As you can tell, she's bubble gummed pretty good. So we've got to get down there with sparks rolling down your arms and in your face and everything. But we've pretty well got this just about done. We've got a few spots where we got to go in and fill in the little pinholes, which is no big deal. We'll grind that back down, or we could just fill it with Bondo. But either way, this is coming together. I'm looking forward to getting this part of the project done. So I'm going to work away at welding that upside down on the bottom of the rocker panel there, and I'll be back with you to close out the video and show you the finished product. Okay, now that my fancy grinding job is all said and done, this is what we've got. I have no primer here in my shop, so I chose to use just some black tractor paint to cover up the bare metal. And I think it's looking okay, to the point where once we get some body fill on this thing, it should be fine. And yes, I know, I'm going to hear it in the comment section down below, but I'm not much of a body man, I know. But I am doing it myself, so there is that. I've got nobody to please but myself. I got rid of the hole that was there, the rust hole, and it's full. We patched it full of metal. We've got lots more work to do on this thing. Those back lower quarters and that piece going across the tailgate, that's going to be a bit of a big job. I may recruit some help from the old man on that one to get in there and see what's involved in getting that done. I don't think it's going to be horrible. It's mostly bolt in, I think, except for parts where it goes across the frame or the bottom side of the floor, and maybe the gas tank's got to come out. I don't know. If the gas tank's got to come out, we got to drain it. It's 3/4 full, and that's a 37-gallon tank. There's a lot of gas in there. Anyways, having said that, that's the end of this video. We will be doing more videos, update videos, maybe not complete installation videos of every little piece that I put in, but I'll keep you updated. And we're going to be plugging away at this again next weekend, and that's going to be involving getting, you know, the parts cut out and the bumper off. And again, like I said, we may end up having to take the gas tank out, but we'll see what happens from there. One last time, if you guys like this video, hit the like button. Please be subscribed to Olde Carr Guy. It really helps me out. And another way that you can help support my channel in more ways than just watching these videos and being subscribed is merchandise. Like, well, this is an old design, but you can get your very own Olde Carr Guy merchandise, t-shirts, hats, hoodies, beer koozies, and you know, whatever your little heart desires. We got all kinds of different things over there, not just specifically related to the channel, but every sale helps go towards projects like what we're working on here. We've got an LS swap we're going to be doing to this thing here in the near future as well, so that all costs money, and I need all the support that I can get to bring you guys all these videos. of what it is that we do. And hopefully by spring, we can be rolling this thing down the road with twice as much horsepower as that it's got right now. It needs it. It's a big beast. Anyways, guys, stay focused on the windshield, not the rear view mirror. I love you. God bless. Let's do it again in the next video.